Hello, hello, welcome. Hello, good to see you. Hello, hello, everybody. Super executed. Oh, hello, hello, everyone. It's good to see you. I am actually a little bit sick tonight, so I'm going to be, my voice will be just a little bit grumbly, but I think we'll still be okay. Hello, hello. Oh, thank you. Yes, this is my mood ring tonight. So, hello, AC. Love that. Thank you for coming. Thanks for coming by. I have got to go put my hair up. I'll be right back. Okay, there we go. Hello. Hi, Vicky. Welcome. Good to see you. Hope everyone is doing okay today. Hello. Lisa, yes, hello. How are you doing? It hasn't been too bad of a day so far, thank goodness. Um, I'm very grateful for that. Those are special treats when our days aren't completely bonkers. Happy about that. I have a full bag of blow pops, so I'm in a particularly good mood today. So, yes, oh my gosh. I think tonight will be fun. Hello. I had noticed, so the last time, yesterday, when I went live, several people had contacted me and said they had been bumped off. And I have been trying to figure out exactly what happened, and I'm really not sure. The only thing I can figure out is that it's possible because there may be certain time limits that set in. So after a certain period of time, it's possible to get bumped off. So I'm going to try to watch my time tonight, which works out because I'm a bit under the weather. Anyway, so, but if anyone gets bumped off, please feel free to message me over in TikTok so I can make sure to double check what happened. So, double check on that. Oh, right. Ken Paxton. Yes. Oh, my goodness. There's a lot going on. There's a lot for sure. We had several things that were interesting today, but luckily not too bad. But anyway, yes, hello, Casey. Yes, now, Casey, were you one of them that got booted off yesterday? I'm really kind of keeping my eye out tonight to make sure that I can keep everyone. I'll make sure to keep the time limits under what I've researched to make sure that everyone can stay on. So hopefully it works out okay. But hello, Silver. Hello, welcome. Welcome. Good to see you. Yes, new blow pops. Yes, it was touch and go there for a little bit, but luckily we're making it through. We have survived, so oh good. Yes. Oh, glad to see it, Casey. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what happened yesterday, but several people, I think probably about a dozen people actually told me they had had trouble. So yes, the quirky kitty, meow. I'm over here today. Some of our more, anything honestly dealing with any of the voter fraud issues, I'm doing over here because those words are really triggering for the algorithm for TikTok. So we've had some problems there. So it's been an issue, but happy to be over here today. Tomorrow, hopefully, I have taken 2 tests and they both came back negative for COVID. So at least there's that. But hopefully tomorrow I'll still be up, able to come on TikTok tomorrow. I'm hoping so. Yeah, wasn't he the one getting impeached? The AG's office there in Texas. That's who I thought he was. Um, yeah, it's a pretty ugly situation down there in Texas. It's worrisome for sure. Anytime you're going through impeachment proceedings, it's worrisome. Absolutely. I could absolutely be wrong though. I could be. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but yeah, we do have the AG's trial situation going on. It's not looking very good. Prosecutor rested their case by mistake. Oh my gosh. Oh, what a nightmare. Whoa. Whoa. Oh, really? Oh, really, Lisa? Oh my goodness. That's a lot. It seems like if you're going to be in public, like you would be a little extra careful, but no, no, I've just come on. I'm just kind of saying hello to everybody. So we haven't, no, no, Daisy, you're just fine. I haven't started yet. We're just kind of chit-chatting for tonight. So I've really got to watch the time limit. I think because my live streaming is so new, I've only been doing it for a couple of weeks. I think I've got some time limit questions, so I'm got to kind of watch my time tonight, but it should be okay. I think we'll be all right. But no, I haven't quite started yet. Just saying hello to everybody. It's so great to see you all. So as I was saying before, if my voice is a little scratchy, I think I've got some kind of a cold going on, so forgive me for that. But I think we'll be able to get through. Now, here's my question. Am I centered okay? Is the document set up all right? Because we've got some fun stuff. I'm going to kind of skim through this as opposed to line by line because it is so dense. So oh yeah, yeah, I think I'll be okay. I think everybody's kind of got a little something right now. I'm wondering if it's because of the seasons changing. Oh yeah, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Yeah, sinus issues. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, I've got I had a vocal injury in college, so sometimes my throat just is a little extra sensitive. Then it's finicky. But yeah, my sinuses are just so sorry if I sound a little nasally, but it'll be all right. Oh, it looks good. Thank you, Silver. Appreciate that. Yeah, yeah, Lisa, I've got the Benadryl going. I had to kind of pace myself. You got to be careful with Benadryl, but hair up, blow pops, candy corn. We good? Yes. You got it, Frank. I think it's a cold. I think the changing seasons have kind of made it into a bit of a cold. So, I'm just a little bit, not quite 100%, but still doing okay. The brain's still working. That's the most important thing. So, I think we'll be all right. Oh, thank you. Sound good as always. Oh, you're so sweet. So, I will go ahead and dive in just because I'm really trying to be careful about the time tonight. Again, I'm still getting used to this format over here on YouTube, and I want to make sure that we don't get bumped off. So, you know what I mean. I don't want anyone to get kicked out. Maybe bumped off isn't the right word. No candy corn. Oh my gosh, Lisa. I'm telling you, those candy corn Tootsie Rolls are kind of a treat. They really are. But I can respect your choice. I respect it. All right, so let's take a look. This is a Colorado petition. I'm going to really kind of go through it a little bit at a time here. They're going into the 14th Amendment. We've got a lot of really interesting pieces and some things that you may not have heard of before. So we have Colorado here. Now, Minnesota did put theirs out, but honestly, it's not quite as good as Colorado. So I thought, let's spend our time here on the Colorado one. They did a pretty good job, I think. So we have our petitioners here, and then they're going against the Secretary of State and Donald Trump. So, again, this was just filed not very long ago here. Verified petition, and here's our table of contents. So, we'll go through. We've got an introduction, the parties, the jurisdiction and venue, the factual background, and these are the key points. We've got 6 different pieces. They're pretty thorough. This petition, I thought, was incredibly thorough. Before the 2020 election, Donald Trump lays the groundwork to reject the election results if he loses and deploy political violence to stay in power. Number 2, after the 2020 election, President Trump refuses to admit defeat and inflames his supporters with the lie that the election was stolen from them. 3, President Trump leads a broad-based effort to pressure, coerce, and intimidate state and local officials to unlawfully overturn the 2020 election results. 4, President Trump oversees a scheme to send fake slates of presidential electors to Congress and pressures Vice President Pence to unlawfully obstruct the January 6th certification proceeding based on those fake elector slates. And 5, President Trump summons tens of thousands of enraged supporters, including violent extremists. Another one was sentenced today, in case anyone missed it, to travel to Washington, D.C. for a wild protest on January 6th to stop the steal. And then 6, a violent mob summoned, incited, and aided by President Trump attacks the United States Capitol to stop the lawful transfer of presidential power. So they'll go through each of those for the factual background. We have Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, and their analysis there is just a couple pages, so we will kind of go through that. And then former President Trump is disqualified under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. This has been a controversial point. We'll really go through that. We're going to really crack that open because everyone's talking about it. So their analysis states former President Trump took an oath as an officer of the United States, which is what the Constitution states, to support the Constitution on January 20th. Now, January 6th of 2021, a mob attack on the U.S. Capitol and surrounding events constituted an insurrection against the Constitution. So they'll go into what their explanation is for that. It's a matter of public record that January 6th was an insurrection. That's, of course, according to the articles of impeachment passed in the House. And the January 6th attack and preceding mob mobilization and incitement constituted an insurrection against the Constitution within the meaning of Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. So, and then we've got number 3, former President Trump engaged in the January 6th insurrection. So again, this is just the overview here of what their petition sets out. Trump knowingly and voluntarily aided and incited the insurrection before January 6th. And B, Trump knowingly and voluntarily aided and incited the insurrection on January 6th. We have the Stop the Steal rally. We have the 224 tweet. I love how specific they are with their evidence also in their petition. It's just a really polished petition. Exploitation of the violence and chaos at the Capitol. Failure to authorize or deploy a federal response. I think that's particularly compelling. Now, not necessarily for this petition, but just as an overview, as an overall piece, the fact that he didn't come out for such a long period of time. Failure to timely instruct the mob to leave the Capitol. Now we get into number 4. The office of the president is an office under the United States from which Trump is disqualified. Claims for relief for count 1 and count 2 are set out here. So, and then we have at the very end the prayer for relief, which is our, fancy word for closing it up. All right, so there's kind of our introduction to give us our roadmap for walking through this petition. Now, I won't be reading everything word for word, but I think there's a lot of really great information that they've really set out in their petition. I think it's very well written. I was quite impressed with it. So here we go. First, let's see who the petitioners are. We have petitioners Norma Anderson, Priola, Camarada, Kafer, Wright, Castilian. They were eligible Colorado electors, and they bring this action to challenge the listing of respondent Trump as a candidate for the 2020 Republican presidential primary election ballot and any future election ballot based on the disqualification from public office under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. All right, hold on. Just one moment here. One moment, please pause. Just a second. Okay, sorry about that. Wardrobe malfunction. There we go. Now we're back. Oh my goodness. Here we go. So they are coming in and challenging as electors 2024 Republican presidential election ballot or any future ballot. Next, we've got, they're declaring that he is disqualified under the 14th Amendment, and they are enjoining the Secretary of State here. Now, I'm not sure if the Secretary of State is a Republican or not, but from taking any action allowing him to access the ballot. So that's, I think, one of the most classic fights that we were talking about before was that the Secretary of State had the authority to go forward and keep them from the ballot. So, here we go. Introduction. Donald Trump tried to overthrow the results of the 2020 presidential election. Before the election, he made plans to cast doubt on and undermine confidence in our nation's system of elections through a sustained campaign of lies. His efforts culminated January 6th when he incited, exacerbated, and otherwise engaged in a violent insurrection at the United States Capitol. Now, Trump's efforts to overthrow the 2020 election and interfere with the peaceful transfer of power were part of an insurrection against the Constitution of the United States. Next, adopted in the wake of the Civil War, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment imposes a qualification for holding public office in the United States. It bars from office any person who swore an oath to support the Constitution of the United States as a federal or state officer and then engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same. So we know that language out of the Constitution. Like other constitutional qualifications based off of age, citizenship, and residency, Section 3 is enforceable through the civil suits in state court to challenge a candidate's eligibility. So this is the key. They're saying we have the authority, just like any other qualification, which was what was written out in the Law Review article that was, so well known here. So they're citing that. Next, Section 3 is a measure of defense designed to preserve and protect American democracy. We'll bump down here. Donald Trump has failed the test. 4 years after taking an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution as president, Trump tried to overthrow the results of the 2020 election. So we've got some pretty bold statements already set out. And they've also included pictures in their petition. So there's a picture, of course, of him being sworn in. And then we have a picture, of course, of what was going on January 6th. The core facts demonstrating Trump's disqualification are a matter of public record. He dishonestly and unlawfully tried to overturn the 2020 election results through multiple avenues. When he failed, he summoned tens of thousands of enraged supporters for a wild protest. Among those Trump mobilized for the January 6th were violent extremists, now convicted seditionists, whom he earlier instructed to stand back and stand by. Others were supporters Trump had inflamed for months with the lie that the 2020 election would be rigged and was being stolen from them. Once his supporters were assembled at the White House ellipse, President Trump repeated that incendiary lie and directed them to march on the Capitol, knowing many were armed and prepared for violence. So one of the big pieces, too, if you all will remember, was, of course, there were a lot of metal detectors, and many people actually went through without going through the metal detectors. That was a big piece. That's how they were able to get the kinds of weapons in that some of them had in. He urged them to fight like hell, to stop the steal, to stop Vice President Mike Pence and Congress from lawfully certifying the Electoral College votes, designating Biden as the president. Before January 6th, he was told repeatedly by lawyers, top officials, and Pence that Pence could not lawfully overturn the election results. Pence rebuked Trump's coercive demands to do so. Undeterred, Trump continued to exert public pressure on Pence. On January 6th, he put his own vice president in the crosshairs of what became a violent mob, stressing that if Mike Pence does the right thing, we will win the election. So the next will be the mob went on to violently storm and seize the Capitol. I'm just going to summarize the next little bit here until we get to more of the legal discussion here. So a lot of this language is the same as what was written out in the Washington, D.C. Federal case. So 121, he knew the Capitol was under attack. President Trump failed to take any action to stop the attack for 3 hours. Rather than defending the Capitol, Trump exploited the violence, leveraged it to pressure members of Congress to further delay the certification. After 3 hours, violence was broadcast on television, repeated pleas from senior staff, instructing the mob to go home, adding that he loved them and understood their pain over an election that was stolen from us. Again, just going into his behavior in that situation. Later, the president justified his deadly attack on the seat of his own government, tweeting, "These are the things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots. Remember this day forever." They go in here more, talking about the mob. This one, racism and white supremacy, the same ideologies that led to the Civil War. In its wake, the 14th Amendment pervaded Trump's insurrection and the movement surrounding it. Ahead of January 6th, Trump and his allies directed their false claims of election fraud at cities with large black populations, targeting and specifically identifying urban areas in Detroit, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, and Atlanta. They sought to coerce and intimidate officials in those jurisdictions to invalidate the votes of millions of black Americans. So I think this is kind of a new spin. I haven't heard this particular perspective before, that they were kind of focusing on particularly a particular section or a group of people. They falsely accused black election workers of ballot tampering, which we all know, causing them to face threats of multiple things here. Neo-Confederates, neo-Nazis were among the first in the mob to breach the Capitol. So there's definitely this element of race that they're bringing in. And I think it's a fair assessment. What do you think? Do you think race was an issue? Just to make sure. It is a list, isn't it? It's a pretty significant list. Yeah, I think so. I think that's a new twist. I haven't seen that in any of the petitions. Absolutely fair. Okay. Yeah, they have a good point, right? There's a reason why we were in Fulton County also with Georgia. And we look, with Detroit. I don't know. Those are also huge cities as well, but I think it's a valid point to bring up. He weaponized a mob, carried out the most significant breach of the Capitol since 1812. Their attack led to 7 deaths, injuries to more than 100 law enforcement officers, and more than $2.7 billion in property damage and losses. Officers died by suicide in the following months. So I think all of those things are incredibly important factors. I think sometimes that we lose sight of that, or some people lose sight of that, perhaps not all of us, but it's fair to say race was an issue. If you're involved deeply with racist groups, it's more than fair to say race is involved. Absolutely. Excellent point. I think that's an excellent point. So, the January 6th attack was a culmination of a multi-part scheme to use lies, coercion, intimidation, and violence against the government officials to overturn the 2020 election. The scheme to obstruct the peaceful transfer of power carried out under the public banner of Stop the Steal movement. That phrase in and of itself is pretty inciting. Voluminous public evidence and legal authorities established the January 6th mob attack at the Capitol and surrounding events constituted an insurrection against the Constitution. So this is really the key, this idea of what exactly we think an insurrection is, because this is something we've talked about before. Do we need to have it defined by federal law, by state law, by the Constitution, by what's happened in the past regarding the Constitution? So all of these questions need to be raised. And what they're saying here is they're looking at public evidence and legal authorities in order to make that determination that an insurrection did happen. So none of the events on January 6th would have happened without him, referring to Trump again, recommending the enforcement of Section 3 of the 14th Amendment against public officials who engaged in the January 6th insurrection. So I think they have a good point. Again, relying on multiple different sources. So although Section 3 disqualification does not require a criminal conviction or impeachment for any offense, I think this again is another key piece that will be appealed. This is what the legal issue is, the legal question that will, I think, ultimately make it up to the U.S. Supreme Court, honestly, because that's really the question. A federal grand jury has indicted Trump on 4 criminal counts relating to his efforts to subvert the election results. So conspiracy to defraud, conspiracy to obstruct, obstruction of an attempt of obstruction of official proceeding. So these are the D.C. indictments, conspiracy against citizens' constitutional rights. So all excellent points. So we'll continue through here. Separately, a Georgia grand jury has indicted Trump with 13 criminal charges relating to a sweeping conspiracy to unlawfully change the outcome of the 2020 election in favor of Trump. A bipartisan majority of the House of Representatives impeached Trump, so that's good evidence there. And then we've got the Senate voted to convict, with several senators voting against conviction, the final vote falling below the requisite 2/3 supermajority. Based on the theory that the Senate lacked jurisdiction to try a former president, the bipartisan January 6th Select Committee and numerous federal judges have likewise recognized Trump's central role in the insurrection. So I think, again, the committee, along with our federal judges as well, courts have disqualified officials under the 14th Amendment who played far less substantial roles in insurrection and who, like Trump, did not personally commit violent acts. This includes Huey Griffin, a former New Mexico County Commissioner who was a grassroots mobilizer, insider, and member of Trump's mob on January 6th, but did not commit violent acts or breach the Capitol building. Kenneth Worthy, who served as a sheriff in the Confederate state but did not take up arms in the Confederate Army. If these individuals' conduct warranted Section 3 disqualification, then surely Trump's does as well. So they're giving us 2 other people who didn't pick up arms but that were found to have been in violation. So these are 2 previous examples that we have. I wonder if they're going to bring up the other, World War I. We'll see. Trump has publicly affirmed his disloyalty to the Constitution, his allegiance to the insurrectionists who seized the Capitol. He has called the insurrectionists patriots, vowed to give them full pardons with an apology if he becomes president again, financially supported them, released a song with a choir of convicted January 6 defendants called Justice for All. Oh my gosh, I forgot about the song. Does anybody remember this song? What? The song? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness gracious. I forgot. I had totally forgotten about the song. But that's right. They all got together and sang in the chorus, asking for the pardon, and hugged on camera a convicted January 6th defendant who has said that Pence and members of Congress who voted to certify Biden's victory should be executed for treason. Right. This is the aiding piece, isn't it? I agree. So here we go. Here's the hugging here. I guess this is what that picture is. We have the hugging of the people wanting to execute the vice president. That's nice. I know, Suze. I agree. It is gross. Ew. All right. Let's get through here a few more pieces. Again, I think this petition is just so well written, in my opinion. I think they did a good job. Trump has blamed former Vice President Pence repeatedly for the attacks because Pence refused to violate federal law and his own oath to the Constitution. Um, 28, Trump also continues to propagate the lie he used to summon the mob to Washington, D.C. So he's continuing. This is ongoing bad behavior, is what they're saying in the petition. January of 2022, he disturbingly called for the termination of the Constitution to correct massive fraud in the election. And he continues to fan the flames of political violence among his supporters against judges, prosecutors, and other government officials. He is precisely the threat to American democracy the 14th Amendment framers had in mind when they adopted Section 3's prohibition on constitutional oath breakers holding office. That's an excellent point. And we have here a tweet on the 2022. Is this a tweet or is this real? I can't tell. Retruth. This is Truth Social. My bad. I was going to say, wait a minute. 2022. He wasn't on the Twitter. No, this is a petition filed by some electors in Colorado against the Secretary of State and Donald Trump in order to keep him from the Republican ballot in the primary in Colorado. So, oh no, I don't think you've missed a lot, Michelle. I think we're okay. Yeah, it is. It's a lot. No, it's okay. It's okay. We're just getting started here. So, with the revelation of massive and widespread fraud and deception in working closely with the big tech companies, the DNC, the Democrat Party, do you throw the presidential election results of 2020 out and declare the rightful winner, or do you have a new election? Massive fraud of this type of magnitude allows for the termination of all rules. Where's he getting this from? I mean, I know he's getting it from somewhere, but it's like, cite your source, man. Of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution, that's absolutely not true at all. Our great founders did not want and would not condone false and fraudulent elections. I think the founding fathers would be absolutely appalled. Can you get a petition in Michigan? I don't know. I think there may be one in the works. I think we definitely are starting to see the first pieces. I have no doubt that we will see an absolute flood of these kinds of petitions. Because Trump swore an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution upon assuming office as president and then engaged in insurrection, he's disqualified under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, holding any office under the United States, including office of the president. I mean, they make a good point. I think it's clearly set out. We'll go through who the petitioners are here as well. Despite his constitutional disqualification, Trump is presently a candidate under Colorado and federal law for the 2024 Republican presidential primary election. The Secretary has the power and duty to exclude constitutionally ineligible candidates from the ballot. Despite this duty, the Secretary is not committed to excluding Trump from the presidential primary ballot based on his disqualification, which is the same thing that the Secretary of State of Minnesota said. The Secretary of State up in Minnesota said, look, I don't think it's my job to do that. Whoever the party has is who we put on the ballot. So that Secretary of State even said it didn't matter what their age was. He would still put them on the ballot. So here in Colorado, they're saying, look, we need to get this sorted out. Based on historical practice, the Secretary will not independently investigate Trump's constitutional eligibility under Section 3 and exclude him from the ballot on the basis absent a judicial order to that effect. Same with Minnesota. So Minnesota said the same. Due to Trump's candidacy combined with his constitutional ineligibility, the Secretary is about to commit, absent relief by the court, multiple actions in the process of granting Trump's access to the ballot that are improper. So they're actually stating here, that's why the Secretary of State's listed as the defendant here, that the Secretary of State's about to break the law by putting him on the ballot. So I love that. I love how they're coming a different route. And constitute a breach or neglect of duty and other wrongful acts in violation of the U.S. Constitution, Colorado law. There is an urgent public interest in promptly resolving whether Trump is constitutionally eligible to serve as president in advance of the approaching primary election. Absent timely relief, petitioners and other voters will be irreparably harmed. According to these code sections, petitioners seek to order declaring Trump constitutionally disqualified from public office. So this is the relief that they're asking, and this would get all the way appealed, depending on what happens. Here are the parties. So let's go through who has brought this case. We've got Petitioner Anderson, a registered voter affiliated with the Republican Party who resides in Colorado. She is an eligible elector within the meaning of the Colorado State Code. Petitioner Priola is a registered voter affiliated with the Republican Party who resides in Colorado. She is also an eligible elector. Petitioner Camarada is a registered voter affiliated with the Republican Party who resides in Colorado, also an eligible elector. So this is because this is, of course, for the Republican primary, so they need Republican voters. Petitioner Kafer, another registered voter affiliated with the Republican Party. Petitioner Wright is a registered voter, again, affiliated with any political party who resides in Colorado. So this one is with any political party. So I suppose she would have to declare which party in order to vote for the primaries, I would assume. Petitioner Castellian, a registered voter, unaffiliated. So we do have someone who was affiliated. Oh, wait. I'm sorry, who's unaffiliated here, also unaffiliated here, but up here we've got the Republican Party. So I think it's good to cover your bases. So depending on if the court does come back and say, well, you're not affiliated, so you wouldn't be voting in the primary, you don't have standing, they still have 3-4 other people. So they go into what eligible electors are, which means you're allowed to vote under Colorado law. And then we have the other defendant, who is Ms. Griswold, the Secretary of the State of Colorado, and sued solely in her official capacity as well. Next, the respondent, Trump, is a private citizen and the candidate under Colorado and federal law. So that sets out who the parties are, the petitioners and the respondents. I say defendant, but I mean respondent. So Trump previously served as the 45th president of the United States. He appeared on the Colorado presidential primary ballot in 2020. To gain access to that ballot, the Colorado Republican Party submitted to the secretary, and the secretary accepted the presidential primary approval form affirming that Trump was a bona fide candidate. So this is the process then. So the Republican Party or the Democratic Party sends in the names to the Secretary of State, claiming they're bona fide. So their own party is what makes sure that they're qualified to run. So that's why this petition is so important, because the Secretary of State does not have the authority here in Colorado to do it themselves. So any state that's set up like this would need to have a separate set of people filing petitions then. Anyone who would be qualified as a voter. Candidate affiliated with the party, Trump therefore submitted to the secretary, and the secretary accepted a notarized candidate's statement of intent together with a non-refundable filing fee of $500, in which Trump affirmed he met all qualifications. So he affirmed himself then that he was qualified. You can see how there could be some issues there with him qualifying himself. All right, so we've got jurisdiction and factual background. So does that make sense, everybody, for who the parties are? We've got multiple people who are voters for the Republican Party. We have a couple of people who are unaffiliated with any party. So all of our standing grounds are all set when it comes to those kinds of questions, which is great. Then we have our two defendants, the Secretary of State in her official capacity, and we've got Trump, who has stated that he's a bona fide candidate, an appropriate candidate, and they're saying he's not. So we'll see how that plays out here. Next, we've got jurisdiction and venue, citing Colorado Code sections here, jurisdiction and venue, because the Secretary's office is in the city and county of Denver, Colorado. Here's the background, factual background. Again, we can kind of zip through a lot of this. We already know a lot of what this is, but let's kind of take a look. Before the 2020 election, Donald Trump lays the groundwork to reject the election results if he loses and deploy political violence to stay in power. Here's the first example. Trump encourages political violence repeatedly during his 2016 campaign and his presidency. So first we had encouraging and normalizing violence against his perceived enemies. which we all are familiar with that. Encouraged supporters to physically assault protesters at his rallies, and they did. At a rally in Birmingham, Alabama, he demanded the removal of a protester shouting, get him the H out of here, will you please? Get him out of here, throw him out. We all remember that as well. Boy, this is really triggering, isn't it? Then we had a rally, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where Trump instructed the crowd to knock the crap out of protesters who may try to throw tomatoes at him, promising to pay for legal fees for anyone who did. Oh, that's right. I totally forgot about that. This is really triggering for sure. I'm definitely being triggered here with memories that I had repressed. All right, and we've got a Las Vegas rally where he commented, we're not allowed to punch back anymore. I love the old days. You know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. I like to punch him in the face, I tell ya. Wow. Ah, okay. We have another one, punching him in the face. We have another one, normalizing violence. This was now coming out of the office of the president. We had the white supremacists in Charlottesville. We all remember that horror of the situation. So wow, we're really going down memory lane here. We had a rally in Montana. Any guy who can do a body slam, that's my kind of guy, because a reporter was body slammed. Now a rally in Florida, how do you stop migrants from coming in the United States? And then someone shouted, shoot them, and then he laughed, minimized the overt call for violence. That's only in the panhandle you can get away with that statement, and then the crowd cheered. Violent rhetoric against his perceived political enemies escalated in 2020 during the COVID pandemic. Nationwide racial justice protests against police brutality. Sent a series of tweets calling on his supporters to liberate 3 states with Democratic governors amid the backlash of their COVID-19 policies. Do you remember that? Do you remember when he was saying liberate Minnesota, liberate Michigan, liberate Virginia because of their governors, and save your great Second Amendment? It's under siege. Oh my gosh, that was awful. Wow, those were really, really hard times. Tough days, everybody. Those were tough days. April 30th, which was a clear harbinger of the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, hundreds of extremists swarmed the Michigan State Capitol to prevent the legislature from lawfully extending Governor Gretchen Whitmer's COVID-19 stay-at-home order. The extremists, many wearing pro-Trump merch and some armed with assault rifles and wearing tactical gear and battle fatigue, stormed the Capitol building, chanted, "Our house, let us in," and tried to breach the legislative chamber, but were held back by police. Among those in attendance were the Proud Boys, a far-right extremist group with a history of violence against political opponents. Extremists likened Whitmer to this person and carried a sign that said, "Tyrants get the rope." Oh my gosh, that's awful. Displayed Confederate flags, nooses, and depicting Whitmer being, yikes. Oh my gosh, I totally suppressed this. It's all coming back to me now. I remember it all. Oh my gosh. Oh, it was awful. It was awful. Yes. Oh, I remember every day waking up and being like, what's going to happen today? It was just, those were hard days. Instead of condemning this armed mob that threatened violence against the governor during its intimidating occupation of the Michigan Capitol, which again leads me to believe, like, when are charges going to come out of Michigan, right? I think that there will be some charges coming out, but not for this, but for other things. President Trump took the side of the extremists and tweeted, May 1st, the governor of Michigan should give a little and put out the fire. These are very good people, but they are angry. They want their lives back again, safely. See them, talk to them, make a deal. Several anti-government extremists were later charged and convicted of conspiring to kidnap the governor just before the 2020 election. And I remember that day. It was pretty... I don't like this memory lane. I don't either, Suze. I don't either. Let's kind of skip a little bit. We're getting there. I think we're turning a corner. As detailed, in the year leading up to January 6th of 2021, far-right extremists staged at least 9 similar events inside state capitol buildings. So just as a reminder, so that we all don't go spiraling down into the ugly rabbit hole, remember, these all failed. They were all held accountable, and the security and measures put into place to make sure they never happen again are 10 times as strong as they were before. So keep that in mind. We went through it. This is kind of what I was talking about last night. The darkest days had occurred, and now it's a matter of cleaning it up. But we've got a lot of things in place because of all of these things that happen that we never thought could happen, but now the safety and protection is in place. So just keep that in mind as we continue to all walk down this terrible memory lane. We do need to remember, Sequin, you're absolutely right. On May 28th, President Trump retweeted a video of Griffin, founder of Cowboys for Trump, and then a county commissioner in New Mexico, saying the only good Democrat is this kind of one, to a cheering crowd, and retweeting this incendiary video to his millions of followers. Trump wrote, "Thank you, Cowboys. See you in New Mexico." A state court later removed and disqualified Griffin from the office under the 14th Amendment. All right, now we know who Griffin is. So by making that statement, Griffin was disqualified under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. So we've got a really good example specific to this situation. And we've got a lawsuit involved here. The appeal was dismissed. So this was just decided last November. On May 29th of 2020, Trump threatened to deploy the military to Minneapolis to shoot the looters amid protests over police murders, tweeting, "When the looting starts, the shooting starts." When asked at September 29th, 2020 presidential debate to denounce white supremacists and violent extremists such as the Proud Boys, Trump refused and instead told the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by, later adding that somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left. In making these comments, Trump disregarded his advisors' prior recommendations that he publicly denounced violent actors such as the Proud Boys, which it seems like that shouldn't be a difficult thing to do, but as we all found, that was very difficult and something he was unwilling to do. So his words electrified the Proud Boys, causing the group's membership to triple. January 6th report, the Proud Boys chairman, Enrique Tarrio, wrote on the far-right social media site Parler, "I will stand down, sir. Standing by, sir." Yikes. Joseph Biggs posted on the same site, Trump basically said, "Go F them up." This makes, I wonder how those guys are feeling now, huh? Me so happy. Again, everyone here, we've got people who've been held accountable. Everyone's been held accountable. It is hard to go back through that. The Proud Boys quickly embraced. He's great. Okay. He's doing great. Interesting. When you see all of this listed down, it's really terrifying. Yeah, I agree. Davis, that is. Okay, fair enough. All in prison. Exactly, Lisa. Exactly. With some significant time. With some very significant time served. Yep. All right, the Proud Boys quickly embraced Trump's stand back and stand by directive as a slogan and started selling merchandise with it the same night. The 6 report, Tarrio, Biggs, and 2 other Proud Boys leaders were later convicted of seditious conspiracy to oppose by force the lawful transfer of presidential power. So there we have, jury convicts 4 leaders of the Proud Boys of seditious conspiracy related to the U.S. Capitol breach. Yep. On October 30th, a convoy of Trump supporters driving dozens of trucks, calling themselves the Trump Train, surrounded the Biden-Harris campaign bus on a Texas highway and forced it to slow to a crawl, came within inches of hitting it, and slammed into a campaign staffer's following car. The confrontation led Texas Democrats to cancel 3 scheduled campaign events due to safety concerns. 2 of the Trump Train's participants later settled a lawsuit for political intimidation under the Second Ku Klux Klan Act. Whoa, I didn't realize they had settled. But yes, I remember that as well. That was quite the day. But, you know, I mean, isn't one of his big shticks that this is the political persecution of him and weaponizing the justice system? But it's looking like, you know, we had a group literally going after his political opponents. Yes, it was those. That was rough. I mean, that's exactly what happens when you're dealing with a coup. Yeah, no, he didn't. He didn't. You're right. Okay. Trump immediately celebrated this dangerous act of political intimidation. On October 31st, he tweeted a stylized video of the Trump train confrontation and stated, "I love Texas." On November 1st, in response to the news that the FBI was investigating the incident, Trump tweeted, "In my opinion, these patriots did nothing wrong," and indicated they should not be investigated. Later that day, at a rally in Michigan, Trump again celebrated the incident, falsely stating his supporters were protecting Biden's bus because they're nice, and boasting they had hundreds of cars. Trump, 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 Trump and the American flag. Years of the President Trump's encouragement and endorsement of political violence had predictable consequences. It normalized for his supporters the idea of using violence, force, and intimidation against political foes. It also demonstrated Trump's knowledge of and support of for threats and acts of violence by his supporters against his perceived political enemies, as well as the power of Trump's words to inspire such acts. I think that's a very powerful act, or a powerful sentence in here. Trump would later use the same call and response dynamic to mobilize a violent mob to attack Congress on January 6th. Yeah, and two, let's just pause for a moment. If we think about it, the chances of an incumbent president winning are already huge. I mean, I know there's polls out there, but if you look historically, the incumbent presidents or incumbent anybody in federal office, honestly, have a huge advantage over anyone else. We've had one president, Grover Cleveland, who had a president in between him, but that was the only situation where that has ever occurred. So this would be an incredibly unusual situation if he were to actually win again. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying it would be incredibly unusual for this situation to come back into play, even if he's not taken off of the ballot. Just to note that the incumbent has the advantage, huge advantage. That's why our one-term presidents are, kind of snickered at, honestly, because they had the advantage going into it, and the fact that they lost really speaks volumes. Just as a heads up on that. Well, him winning for the first time, it seemed him winning the Republican primary, yes, but him actually winning the presidency was on script. That was how it had been historically. We had 2 terms of one party, and then it flips. So him actually winning just because he was listed as a Republican, that would be coinciding with what we do historically, with the exception, of course, of Roosevelt. But that's what has always happened, is that we flip parties after we get 2 terms of one particular party. So it's not that unusual, and it was really predicted for politically historical reasons that he would have won, just because he was a Republican candidate. Yes, but again, we're in an unusual situation, but that incumbency really has a lot of weight to it, and I think that was one of the reasons why everyone was so mobilized in 2020, was because of this acknowledgement that he was coming into the 2020 election with this huge incumbency advantage. So it would take more work to come in with a new candidate to win. So we don't have that same issue this time. So it'll be important that people still mobilize and go out and vote. Don't take it for granted, of course, but technically that's historically how we've dealt with things. Just looking at trends, as it were. I always felt 2016 election should have been looked at. I bet some shenanigans went down. Gina, it was, and there were. I mean, there absolutely were. We had a huge interference with Russia. It's just fair to say that. If you've gone through Mueller's report and his testimony, mostly his report, because his testimony was just, read the report. But yeah, there was influence there, huge influence through Facebook. it was a huge issue, and people were charged and given sentences because of that. So yeah, they did interfere. So it was hinky, but on the other hand, you know, that propensity for the parties to flip after two terms was also there. So I think it just made the pickings easier for what had occurred with that. Yeah, with Russia. And Tasha, I'm not trying to be discriminatory towards Russia by any means. I'm going just off of what Robert Mueller wrote in his report. Yes, a lot of states have changed voting laws. Right, right. In Rogerstone, oh yeah. Oh, sister, that's difficult. That's a tough one. You know, the way that we changed social media was so obvious when it came to the 2020 election because we learned from 2016. We learned from Mueller. He taught us where the weaknesses were and we firmed them up. We firmed them up. Yeah, no, yeah, I think it's important. I always put a side note in there. I have let me give you a quick side note. My mother-in-law, I'm blessed with two, but I have a mother-in-law and then I have a stepmother-in-law. And my stepmother-in-law is literally from Moscow. She's been here over 20 years. Her mother, though, just came in from Moscow to live with her because, you know, that's what they're doing. So I have two just, you know, very staunch, um, historically accurate, lovely Russian ladies in my world. Now, my mother-in-law, who is here, who has been here for 20 years, has took me through the entire process, took me through the Russian newspapers, took me through the Russian media at the time, and explained how things were. So for me, I was able to kind of get this inside perspective as she explained it. Now, she, of course, was not in agreement with it, but, you know, I just asked her outright, I'm like, how did this work? And once she kind of was able to translate and explain things to me, I was like, oh my goodness, okay then. Oh my goodness. And it made a lot of sense with what she's saying. So, you know, I just have this unique take on the 2016 election because I was able to see the kind of information that was being chatted about on actually in Russia at the time. It's fascinating. Anyway, I digress, but that's my kind of insight into that situation. Yeah. Jeff, I'm not sure what you're talking about. Um, yeah, Jeff, are you okay? Because I'm here to not deal with any of that crap over here. So I'm gonna need you to be in a timeout now, okay? No offense, but no, those aren't facts. Yeah. Yeah, we're not gonna deal with that. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Yeah. Thanks. Can you ask her mom what's happened since? Oh, Suze. Okay, so here's the deal. Ever since, all right, so here's the deal. This isn't secret. I don't know why I'm whispering, but ever since Ukraine occurred, there was a split between my mother-in-law and her mother who had come over from Moscow. Now her mother is, you know, 20 years older, right? So, yeah, she's in her 80s, her mother. When Russia went into Ukraine, her mother and her basically stopped talking because they had such a huge disagreement about it. And her mother watches Russian television 24/7 with headphones on and is always listening to it. And all of the propaganda that's coming out of Russia is just so clear and obvious. So within their own home, my mother-in-law, who's been here 20 years, and it's like, oh my gosh, you're crazy, to her own mother, who's like, you're being disloyal. So there's been this huge break. So we do talk about it sometimes, but it's very sensitive now because there is like this, you know, family now that's pitted against each other because of what happened in Ukraine. Yeah, I know. So, but we do talk about it these days, but there's a lot more really going on with the situation with Ukraine than anything else. It's like Russia's just too busy right now. Yeah, it is. It is. It is. Yeah. Emily, there's no mods. It's just me modding. So you got to just tell me. You got to be like, hey, Dingleberry. It is sad. It is sad. But, you know, her mother makes her choices. And, you know, she's old school. Both of them lived through what they call Soviet times. And, you know, kind of would go through and explain what things were like there, which is like nothing like we were actually told. Like the real experiences, so different than how we were taught what actually happened. But, you know, it was that moment when, you know, there was that loyalty to Mother Russia and with Ukraine, and it just absolutely was, that was it. Yeah, I saw that, Ezra. I saw that. That was really different. Yes, far less trolls. Just let me know, though, Dingleberry. I know. Sometimes I am a Dingleberry. Once you're Russian, you're always Russian. True Suze, although my mother-in-law, gosh, she is just one of the most intelligent and amazing women I have ever met in my entire life. And, you know, she was one of the very first people that was like, you know, what are you doing going into Ukraine? So, you know, meanwhile, though, she I think sometimes she struggles with her friends that are back in her homeland because, you know, her ideologies are so different, which I think is one of the reasons why she and my father-in-law got together to begin with. So, yes, 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 it's been a long time. Yes. Oh, I know. It's hard when within their own family, you know, you've got such huge differences, but it's very interesting. And you know, I was very friendly, of course, with my mother-in-law's mom until the war started. And then, you know, I couldn't believe some of the things she said. I'm like, I'm not trying to hurt you. You know, we've known each other for years. Nothing changed overnight. So there was just a lot of that. I will let you know when the Dingleberries. Thanks. Appreciate it, Ellie. Yes. Yeah, it is. It is. We used Dingleberry in the 60s. Well, yeah, because it was classy. That's how you did it. I love Russian dressing. Woohoo! I've learned so much from my mother-in-law. She is absolutely a treasure. I adore her. I adore her. Yes, yes, yes. All right, so I have digressed. I have digressed. Yes, America first. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing though, isn't it? That's kind of, you know, I mean, there's patriotism and then there's patriotism. I mean, I remember standing up for flags. If there was a flag on a cake, you stood and saluted it, you know? I mean, I get it, I get it. But then there's like also like the other part of that. So, yes, the Matryoshka dolls. Yes. Oh, there's such an amazing. I cannot. You know, I tried. I didn't learn. I knew some Russian. I feel like I know a little bit of everything, but I do know a little bit of Russian. I know a Russian song, but that's about it. I don't, and of course, like, you know, Privyet and Das Vidanya, which now they don't say that. They're like, that's like basically speaking Shakespeare if you say Das Vidanya. Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, but yeah, no, I just know a Russian song, but I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot of amazing things. It's actually really an amazing culture. Like if you put the crazy aside, which I think is fair to say about any country, if you put the crazy aside and actually look into the history, I mean, it's fantastic. It's fascinating history. Yes, well, Russian is, I mean, it's a really cool language. I think it's a really cool language, for sure. But yeah, I took French, so French and Spanish and Korean is what I'm learning. Mandarin is very difficult, but um, yes, the Anastasia movie, right? You know, and I think there's some good points to that. Although their take on the Anastasia story is vastly different. That they're meaning my mother-in-law and her mother. Speak Swedish. Hey, that's okay. I love it. Oh, I love it. I see someone flying a giant flag. I wonder if they're super Really? Oh, I know. I know. I feel that way too. And for other people in my life, I grew up when all about the flags. And I've told you all before, I had a red, white, and blue wedding on the 4th of July. So, I mean, it was like really important. But now there is that moment where you have to just wonder about it. Portuguese, of which you live in Spain. Oh, I love that. I love that. Je parle français aussi. Ah, très bien. No, we love that. We love that. Yeah, that was the area I went into. Oh, all right, all right. Where was I? I digress with all of my Russian knowledge, my inside information that is not really inside, but so here we go. I fly my USA flag next to my Ukraine flag. I love it. I love it. So, and then as a quick, and I'll wrap up my Russian discussion with the last pieces here. I have an amazing, I told you I was blessed with two wonderful mother-in-laws, and so my other mother-in-law she's so amazing. She's truly a gift, and she when we all get together, because we all do get together, because that's how amazing these women are. So she always wears her Ukraine support pin. So we'll sit at the table and eat dinner, all of us together, and she'll have her Ukrainian support pin on. Oh, it's always like, okay, that's what's happening. Pass the green beans, thanks. Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I think so too. And now that the Confederate flag has made its reappearance too, it's always kind of disheartening. But first year of college, he's taking, oh, is it Mandarin? I'm assuming it's Mandarin. I always ask because we do have Mandarin and Cantonese. So I never know which one people are learning, but yes, Ukraine t-shirt. I love it. I love it. Yes. And so of course she's fully supportive of Ukraine, and it's like, hey, let's have dinner. And we're like, all right. We love it. I know, right? Tasha, I love it. Yeah. No, she's not messing around. They're both amazing. They are. I truly am blessed. I'm very, very lucky. They're both fantastic women. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm blessed. I'm blessed to know them. All right, so that'll end my Russian discussion. Although I can't guarantee I won't bring it up again at some point. Oh. All right, so here we go. We have the I got your back. I love it. I love it. So Trump sows the seeds of election denialism. Ooh, I'm loving that word. That's my new favorite word, everybody. That's it, denialism. All right, denialism before the 2020 election. So we'll get into some of the more details here. I'm going to kind of skim through this next piece because I really want to get into the analysis of what's going on. So at the heart was the inflammatory lie of a stolen presidential election. It motivated the nationwide Stop the Steal. In October of 2016, the presidential debate if he would accept the results, and his answer was, I will look at it at the time. I will keep you in suspense, which I think we all remember how that was. Even winning the presidential election, but losing the popular vote, he asserted he would have won the popular vote if you deduct the millions of people who voted illegally. Oh, that's right. He said he would have won the popular vote, but that it was fraudulent, even though he actually won. He claimed that there was fraud. That's right. That's another thing I blocked out. Repeated the lie most of the time. 2018 midterm elections claimed 4 key races were rigged. Anti-democratic rhetoric intensified as the 2020 presidential election came up. Used the bully pulpit, which we all are familiar with. Fox News, July of 2020, falsely claimed a mail-in voting, which several states expanded due to COVID, said it was going to be a rigged. So he's prepping the information ahead of time, saying, get ready, it's going to be rigged. So 2016 was rigged for the popular vote, and 2020 was going to be rigged as well. So we just kept going with that ideology. Amid the polling showing Biden with double-digit lead over Trump, he sent in a tweet saying inaccurate, fraudulent election in history, so already claiming it was fraudulent. Rally in Wisconsin, the only way we're going to lose this election is if it's rigged. Again, more of that rhetoric. Republican National Convention at the White House, which there was a huge question about that a special prosecutor looked into. said it was going to be the biggest scam in the history of politics. Again, we had another press briefing. We're going to have to see what happens. I've been complaining very strongly about the ballots. The ballots are a disaster. So again, just more support for this idea that he was setting it up before it even happened, which is true. He did. He did. So this isn't something that just happened overnight. We already had the situation set. So love that your family is so diverse. Oh, my family? Are you talking about my family or someone in the chat? Yes, my family is very diverse. That's putting it mildly. My family. Whoo! Oh, yeah, they're pretty diverse. That's true. And I'm thankful for it. Every day I'm thankful for it. All right, so November 2nd, the day before Election Day, criticized the U.S. Supreme Court for allowing Pennsylvania to extend the time for receiving it. So we already have the Pennsylvania issue out of the U.S. Supreme Court. Again, setting it up. Oh, yes, my family. Yes, they're very diverse. My parents met in the Army and actually had to get married in Europe because they wouldn't legally have been allowed to get married in the States at the time. Next, after the 2020 election, President Trump refuses to admit defeat and inflames his supporters with the lie that the election was stolen from them. So we've got November 3rd through January 6th. Trump continued to inflame his supporters with false claims of election fraud. Again, we all know that. Trump falsely declares the victory prematurely and pervasively, which spreads that election disinformation. Election night, he said this is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We're getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election. We did win. So that was all on election night. We all remember that. His decision to declare victory falsely was a premeditated strategy. So again, you're right, they're setting it up. He had a draft statement on October 31st declaring victory. So it was already in the works at that point. This strategy meant to take advantage of the so-called red mirage, the illusion of the Republican victory in the early stages of the vote counting. Yep, we had another piece of that. I remember that. Again, to get a couple of psychics together and ask the forefathers what they want. That would be nice. That would be nice if we could just put a crystal on the Constitution and let it just kind of pick what's going on. Sometimes I think about that. I've said too much. Again, this constant barrage of they stole the election. More mail-in votes were counted. Election results shifted towards the Democrat. The red mirage faded, and Trump supporters became increasingly agitated by the president's false claims. So, on November 4th, based on incomplete early returns, he tweeted, "We are up big, and they're trying to steal the election." We all remember that. Stop the count. Halting the counting of votes is what he had wanted to do. Would have disenfranchised millions, which is what happened in Florida in 2000, for those who may remember that. On November 7th, the press, other major news networks called the presidential election for Biden. Trump refused to accept this. Reporting on the 8th, "We believe these people are thieves. The big city machines are corrupt. This was a stolen election. Best pollster in Britain wrote this morning that this clearly was a stolen election." Britain? What's going on there? All right. Ensuing days, we've got multiple examples. Attorney General Bill Barr, Jeffrey Rosen saying repeatedly there was no fraud. We've got Pat Cipollone reached the same conclusion and forcefully told this to Trump over and over and over again. Undeterred, Trump continued to tweet out false claims of election fraud. His allies frequently directed their false claims of election fraud at cities with large black populations. That was strategic. Detroit, Atlanta, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Pittsburgh. He took the aim politically corrupt cities of Detroit, Philadelphia, Atlanta, and Milwaukee. Tweeted dead people, below-age people, illegal immigrants, fake signatures, prisoners. That continues on with the vitriol. As it went on and on and on. Election Infrastructure Government Coordinating Council, led by the Department of Homeland Cybersecurity Infrastructure, so CISA, which was mentioned in the DC indictment announced the election was the most secure in American history. 5 days later, Trump fired his appointed CISA director. November and December of 2020, the campaign paid about $1.5 million in total to two research firms, Berkeley and Simpatico, to investigate allegations of election fraud. They investigated fraud in 6 key states, found no evidence. So his own research firms found no evidence. I think is important. Berkeley employee personally briefed Trump on these findings in December. Simpatico investigated over a dozen voter fraud theories and likewise reported to Trump the campaigns of the theories or the fraud was unsupported. I think this is a really big point. I'm just questioning, I'm wondering, I'm interested in your opinion. Do you think the fact that he hired these two firms that found nothing, could that be pitched as persuasive? I'm wondering how persuasive that would be to those supporters that are saying there's so much fraud. Would it be possible to turn the narrative into he hired two independent research firms himself with his own money from his campaign, $1.5 million, and they said there was no fraud? Do you think that would be persuasive? He doesn't care about the evidence. Every time he's told, he ignores it. True, but I'm wondering about his voters. Would his supporters feel like this is, I'm always looking at that. I'm always looking at the evidence. I'm thinking, what would be the one piece that would help people to kind of ask the question? They're far beyond reach. Do you think all of them are sequin? I'm just wondering. To show he knew and was told. Yes, I think it is very, and again, this was in November and December, and they made it clear. So his whole thing on his speech on January 6th, oh, that's how I really felt. He's got two independent firms he hired that told him repeatedly. Wishful thinking? Okay. Yep. Not for many. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. San Antonio happens to lesser. Okay. They would find a way to deflect. I don't think the voters would. What he says they go on with. Can we really access his supporters when they have a cult mindset? Do you think all of his supporters feel that way? I don't think that thing exists. Okay, they're delusional. I think at this point Trump himself could admit he lied about anything. Oh, you know, Daisy, that's really it though, isn't it? He could come out himself and say it. They're not interested in the truth. Whole family supports actual facts do not matter. Well, I had read something somewhere. I can't remember, and I wish I could remember the citations. I'm usually pretty good about that. But one of the things they said to ask a lot of these supporters is he the same Trump that you voted for in 2016? Is he the same today as he was then? Because what they're finding when they're talking to supporters is that seems to be the pivotal difference. Who he was in 2016 as opposed to where he's at or who he is today. And I'm just, sometimes then when I'm looking at evidence, I'm like, can they see then the difference between who he was originally and who he is today? I'm just wondering. I think it's an interesting question. Those who still support him are all in. Okay, fair enough. They have to be. Right. Continues, right. Has already come out. Well, that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if we see the loudest because the number is diminished. Wish it could be more positive. Oh no, you don't have to be more positive, Sequin. No. I think it's great information. I think it's great to acknowledge. I feel like I learned from all of you as well as hopefully you finding something new too. People don't change, they reveal themselves. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, on 5th Street, 5th Avenue. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think the followers. Yeah, good point. I voted for him in 2016 because I thought he was something different than a politician. Right, John. Right. And now though, is he a politician? I'm wondering. I just don't know. He made comments to imply that they found it. What does it mean if they don't belong to any party? They're independent. They're independent. That could be really good. Yeah, Suze, that's what I was reading was from researchers who had been out in the rural communities and had just been talking with his supporters. And the question that continued to be the one that gave them pause was this question: is he the same person you voted for in 2016, or is he different? Because a lot of people are saying, I don't really like who he is, but I like his politics. But he's had a chance now to kind of change and to waffle, and has he become part of the establishment now? I don't know. I think it's a good question. It's a good question to ask. His cabinet members told him, yeah, as an honest hero. Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. Never directly said it. Listen to his rallies. He would say, "Did you hear about the results? We won." Yeah. 2020 because I did not believe anymore. Yeah. Well, and that's kind of the thing, isn't it, though, John? Because there really was this idea in 2016, like, this is a breath of fresh air. We've got a peppermint coming in, something brand new, throw a, just burn it all down and let's start over again. But that was 2016. I mean, 2020 is a different story. People had a chance to really kind of see what was going on, and if it was something that was really going to happen or not. Remember the audience? I remember the man with the cowboy hat. Yeah, and the white beard. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's just a good question, just something to think about, because I'm just always wondering, what it is that makes a change. As the years went on, the power went to his head. Well, Greg, I think that's really a good point, and that was the entire, his entire campaign in 2016 was all about, I'm here for you. I'm like rolling up my sleeve like Juan Perón in Argentina, like, hey, I'm one of you. And now in 2020, or back in 2020, it was a different story, and even more of a different story now, that he's kind of getting tangled up with the judicial system. I don't know. I think it's good. It's a good question. I wish I could find it, but there's an article regarding the neuroscience. Many brought up very religious, were trained to believe regardless of the proof. Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see it. I can see how that would be an issue. Here's another thought. If he was to win 2024, he would never leave office again. He's a very sick man. Well, I don't think he'd be able to stay. I really don't. If he did win, which would beat all of the historical data possible, if he did win, no, I think day one he would be met with impeachment issues, honestly. But the other thing too, though, is he still would be going to trial. So how could he do his job? So even technically, he wouldn't be available. He'd have to put his vice president in order to do the job, because he would be in court on trial. I mean, there's a lot of practical issues as well. Military would remove him. I don't know. I think he would need to set people up to take his place while he was busy with court, in my opinion. It's definitely a unique situation, but I think as the time gets closer and the more days that people see him in trial, I mean, whether he wins or not, the point is the practical issue of actually going to trial and having to be in trial while you're on trial for these huge charges. I mean, it's going to take up a lot of his time. Just time management wise, he's going to have some issues. And I'm wondering too if that's another piece of just saying, when's he going to have time to run the country if he's sitting in court? Plan B, right. Going to start supporting Vivek. Vivek said he would pardon whoever participated peacefully. I think that's the only shtick that Vivek's got. Honestly, Vivek is so unknown. He started campaigning like 6-8 months ago. Like, he was already hitting like high paid advertisements a long time ago. So that's his shtick. His shtick is, I'm a mini Trump. And in the end, I don't think that's, I mean, that might be helpful and it may be detrimental because of other candidates that aren't that way, but I don't think it's going to be enough to put him in a position of any kind of authority, honestly. He's friends with Jared, true, but there are a couple key pieces about him that will make it so he could never be on the ticket with Trump. He's starting hitting MAGA points. True, and we can all kind of, nod our heads at his point, but again, there are some fundamental pieces that would keep him from being able to be the alternate. And I think we have to recognize the reality of that situation. Just like he wouldn't be able to have a woman as a running mate either. That's just not possible. It's just not. I mean, just if you just look at his base, you're not going to be able to put a woman in as his vice president. You're not going to be able to put him in as vice president either. I think those are just the fundamentals of the base that he plays to. Maybe that's not a good thing to say, but just looking at it politically, in my humble opinion, I don't mean any offense, of course. I just am thinking of, you know, what the base looks for. There's a lot of words, but yeah, these polls never asked. Where do these polls come from? The polls, Becky, just aren't, I think it's a valid question, but the polls that we've got are just not what they have been. I do not trust the polls. I never have. Maybe it's because of the political background that I've got, but no, I don't trust any of the polls. It's too soon. My neighbors are big fans of Trump. Don't live together. One said January 6th with a deep fake. Other haters January 6th, but would still vote for Trump. Interesting, Suze. Interesting. It's true. Plato. Yeah, well, you know, he could only have... Well, Ellie, that's what I'm saying, right? I mean, anyone else, you can't give that level of authority to anyone other than that for his base to be supportive. I think that's the fundamental piece of all of these suits and of the ongoing message. I mean, we can't ignore it. It's right there in front of us. And if Vivek thinks somehow, I know I'm not saying his name correctly, but, you know, if he thinks somehow he can overcome that, I just absolutely disagree. True, I think they will be investigated. Yes, no, I'm over here. It's a bit more peaceful when we have more we have more discussions of the controversial nature, I think. I think we definitely have a good time. I feel like we both need to agree the grass is green and we're not there. Yeah, Suze, it's not even that. I mean, it's at a point where you're like, is there grass? What is grass? Can we agree on what grass is? You have to take it even back another step. No one who thinks like me responds to polls, so I don't think they capture a lot of voices. You're right, Michelle. That's an excellent way of judging it. When have you been asked? And for people who do get asked, the ones that don't hang up immediately or the ones who take the initiative to go and answer those polls, that's what skews the polls in the beginning. Yes, Mondays and Thursdays, but I do come over here when we're kind of doing a deep dive into this kind of information. I think it's just better. Honestly, it's better to have these kinds of open discussions here. We can toss around ideas and, you know, we don't have to deal with so much extraneous information. You know, not that I'm against it, but it's a bit of a hassle. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts when I'm looking at just looking at the behavior in the situation. All right, so never been asked to poll. Yeah, I think some people are so strong that they don't want to admit they're wrong. Oh, absolutely, Becky. I think it's hard to recognize when you're wrong, and to admit it's even harder. So even in your heart of hearts, you might realize, wow, I made a bad choice. But to say that out loud is almost impossible. That's one of our strategies, honestly, in trial, in criminal trial, is to, when we're doing voir dire, is to try to get our jurors to say, you know, would it be possible for you to find the defendant not guilty? Because we want them to acknowledge something out loud that they may not be able to actually say. And so that's a way of getting them to kind of come around and open their mind up to be able to even walk down that road if there's an issue. They take non-respondents into consideration. Oh, yeah. That's interesting. So I'm wondering again how accurate it would be. I'm not great with apologies. Yeah. None of us, I mean, I think a lot of us struggle. If I'm wrong, I apologize. I think it depends on the situation. Like if I'm going into somewhere and, you know, I'm like, hey, where are the blow pops? And they give me a lot of attitude and I'm like, you know, don't sass me. And then I'm like, oh, I'm just having a bad day. I apologize. That's one thing. But when I have been arguing a particular issue with someone for years, and then finally I find that one piece of evidence that completely changes things, I think it's hard. I think it's hard too. It's hard to walk in and say, you know what, this thing we've been fighting about for years, I just found out I was wrong. I think that's definitely difficult. You can join online panels to take surveys. Right. Okay. Yeah. And then I wonder too if there's some kind of compensation for taking those surveys. I'm just wondering. Someone with your characteristics. Okay. Yeah. And that's kind of tough. Do good until you know better, then do better. Absolutely. That is absolutely my life motto. Although it's hard. It's not easy for sure. It's definitely difficult. More relaxing here, Greg. You're absolutely right. No one wants to admit they've been duped. It's hard. It really is. It's hard. I remember I had a period of time when I first went out of law school, and I kept referring to an Alford plea, Alford. I kept calling it an Alfred plea, like Batman, Alfred. And I was like so puffed up out of law school, and I'm like, okay, let's talk about an Alfred plea. And all the defense attorneys would look at me, and I'd be like, you want a piece of this? You want a piece of this? And so nobody said anything. Years later, I found out, I mean, I was saying it wrong because I pronounced everything incorrectly, and I had to own up to that. And so when I went into trial, and I was like, yeah, you're right, it's Alfred. That was a hard moment. You don't want to admit it. You don't want to admit it, especially when it's embarrassing. But yeah, not a lot. I wouldn't imagine it would be too much, but still some kind of compensation. Lemonade, I know. I just held on to that. I was like, I said it's Alfred. I even wrote it up in the plea agreement. The judge looked at me like I was out of my mind, and I was like, what? What's the problem? So that moment of humility was so needed in my life. Oh, yeah. I mean, you just realize like, whoopsie doos, I screwed up, and you gotta, you gotta to the bat cave. I know. And all these like really seasoned, like decades, they had been practicing 20 years, are all just looking at me across the table when we're negotiating. And they're just looking at me like I'm out of my mind. I'm like, what? What? You want to take this outside? Let's do it. Work for a polling firm. Oh my gosh, Michelle, I can't even imagine. Alf, do you remember? Yes, Alf, of course. Gotta remember Alf. No one person corrected you. You know, Lisa, when you first get out of law school, let me tell you something. You make a lot of, you know, there weren't a lot of people that wanted to cross me. It's the time I'm not proud of myself because I came out and I was so hard. I had to be so hard and forceful as a woman, honestly, coming into the field I was going into in criminal law. And so I just came out the door like as strong as possible. I mean, I wore full three-piece suits and ties. I put my hair back. I mean, I was like, I am not a woman. I am the Terminator. So for someone to come at me saying, you know, you said that wrong or that section of the code's wrong, like they were scared. And that was my goal. You know, of course I softened over time and I realized like, you know, let's tone it down a little bit, but you just learn the hard way. You do. You just learn. Oh, you do. Absolutely. Yeah. Is there grass? Yeah, I know. At least you can chuckle about it now. Yeah, it was a hard learned lesson, but I learned it. Absolutely, I did. You don't talk about politics with family. Sometimes they don't forgive. Oh, Becky, it's true though, isn't it? Yeah, I know. Lisa, I had some problems. Motions and lemonade gets me every time. Oh, I know. Yeah, save the cats. You softened to the store clerk. I did. It's true. You have to. I mean, you can be tough as nails all you want, but it's exhausting. And especially when it's not really your personality. And it never really fit me properly. I mean, I was the kind of person in law school where, you know, I didn't have lollipops. I only had ass kicking. So I didn't have blow pops at the time. And everybody knew that in law school. And so, you know, I was kind of that leather jacket, tough kid. It's like, you want to mess with me? That's fine. Let's go. I'll scrap you. So when I left law school, I had a ton of friends, but I had a ton of, you know, moments where I was like, you know, I needed the blow pops. I needed to calm down. That's how it's done when we're young. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you had to be harder. Exactly. I absolutely was tough. Yeah, Pink Ladies, you got it. I mean, I was chain smoking during finals, and everybody would be like, what are you doing? You're taking all your time up to go smoke. And I was like, yeah, you want a piece of this? I was pretty tough. Self-reflection. Yeah, you learn, and sometimes we learn the hard ways. And so I figured it out. Yeah, no, I didn't wear skirts either. I wore skirts in law school, but no, I was a three-piece suit person with a full tie, and I didn't care what was happening. I was like, let's do this. I got names to take down. Oh, those were the days. Those were the days. Everyone has an opinion. True. True. Yeah, I was. I really was. People, I'm not proud of it, but, I had to go through my phase of, I just wasn't going to take anybody's bologna sandwiches. And, you know, that's how it was. But you soften over the years. You figure out, what works and what doesn't work. And I figured out, I learned the hard way. Yeah, I'm not sure if age matters. Do you remember? Yeah, I do. And it does matter. I was like almost the youngest. There was one person younger than me in my law school class, and it was a fight. It was a fight. I worked at the Capitol too for multiple semesters as an intern, and yeah, you fight. You have to fight to be taken seriously. So you just kind of do what you got to do. Sometimes you got to put on a put on a costume and go forward. Oh, I know, Olivia Newton-John. I know. Yeah, yeah. Oh, heels. Alyssa, I had heels, but I also had like platforms because I'm 5'2". So I put platforms on so that, people weren't looking down on me. It was a lot. I'm not proud. But then when, the changes came and I switched to flats, I just little heels, everyone's like, wow, you're a lot shorter than I thought. Or the biggest thing for me was when I would have students come from sitting in class up to the front of the classroom, and they would tower over me because of course I had lost all my heat by that point. And they would come up and they would like look at me like I'm a foot shorter than them, and they would look at me and they'd be like, wow, you're a lot shorter than I thought. You seem bigger when you talk. I'm like, yeah, it's a true story. Oh. Yeah, it's true, Snappy. I mean, it really is. Like you gotta drink, you gotta smoke, you gotta be masculine, but yet still feminine, and you gotta drink, but not so much that you're not aware of what's going on around you, because that's just trouble. So it was tough. There were a lot of plants that died in a lot of lobbies. I guess is how I would put it. That's how I would put it. So I have no regrets, but yeah, you can start out jaded or become jaded. Oh, Suze, that's such a great way to put it. Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. Absolutely, absolutely. And those drinks got watered down, and you got to take care of yourself. Got to be careful, very careful. You're crying. Yeah, you can see me in a three-piece suit in a hotel lobby, just chucking Jack and Cokes into the planter. That's a pretty accurate picture of what my early years were like. Yeah, you do. You have to be tough, I think. No, I'm fine. I'm Dolly Parton. I'm Dolly Parton's size. We're pretty similar. I can relate to her in a lot of ways. Oh yeah, she's my idol. It was you just gotta figure out how to do your best. Oh, it is. It's totally the Barbie monologue. Oh, you wrecked your feet. Yes. Oh, Birkenstocks. You've earned it, Suze. You have earned it. You just live in those Birks. Go for it. Absolutely. 5'9". What? Oh my gosh. 5'9". That's like me on a chair. I have to stand on a chair to be 5'9". If I'm not called sassy once a week at my job, there's something wrong. Oh my gosh, I love it. She is. Dolly is amazing. I adore her. It's what I did in law school. Worked in computers for a telephone company. Each problematic. Yes, indeed. I hear ya. I hear ya. All right. I digress. Here we go. Where were we? Okay, dozens of courts rejected Trump's frivolous election lawsuits. I'm trying to dive back in here. I'm like, let's dive back in. All right, so we have 62 lawsuits that were filed. Great. Judges appointed by Republicans and Democrats said there was no fraud. Great. Skipping. As we go through, I get the content here. Oh no, I'm looking at the clock. Oh my gosh, everybody. I've only got about 20 minutes left on my time here, and then I'm afraid people are going to start getting booted out. She's 12 and she's 6 feet tall. Oh my gosh, so jealous. Jack and Coke. Yeah, I know. I mean, that's what you got to do. I had to put my fuzzy navels away. Fuzzy navels weren't working for me. 2 eye surgeries. My eyes got tired, making it difficult to read. Your reading's the most valuable things to me. Oh, Sam, that's so sweet. Many thanks. Yeah, I'll keep at it for sure. Women are the more intelligent ones. It imitates chauvinist. Yeah, I'll take a strong woman to represent me if I ever got into trouble. Heck yeah. I mean, you gotta work. You gotta work. All right, so Trump's attorneys ultimately face stiff sanctions and disciplinary actions, which we all know, for peddling Trump's lies, right? New York, Giuliani got suspended. And let's see, presiding disciplinary judge at Colorado Supreme Court approved stipulant. Oh, I didn't know this. Jenna Ellis, Giuliani's deputy, was disciplined. Ellis admitted that while serving as a senior legal advisor to Trump and counsel for his reelection campaign, she repeatedly made misrepresentations on national television and on Twitter. Now, I didn't know this. Did anyone know that Ellis had a lawsuit in Colorado? Whoa, that's like really important to know. I'm gonna have to pull this case actually. So we've got People v. Ellis here, Colorado. So she made admissions. A federal judge in Michigan sanctioned and referred for bar discipline Sidney Powell, Lynn Wood. So these names are all familiar. Here are the cases as well. All right, we've got more sanctions. We've got California against John Eastman. We kind of talked about that before. I may need to do another live about that. Federal District Court in California. President Donald Trump himself likely knowingly made false claims. Cited an email in which Eastman stated that the president had been made aware of the allegations. So this is the case I was telling you all about, this Eastman versus Thompson, that I will take you through at some point because it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. There's so much information in this case. Wow, it's a lot. All right, legal efforts, Texas versus Pennsylvania. That was a U.S. Supreme Court case where they didn't have standing. Fired up above the Supreme Court decision, was raging out about it. Again, I'm just kind of skipping through here. Proud Boys, which were sentenced here. So again, this is all that supporting information. All right, that takes us to 3. President Trump leads a broad-based effort of pressure, coercion, and intimidate state and local officials to unlawfully overthrow the 2020 election. So Powell had gone totally. She did. Ellis is one with the big smile. She is. Yeah, she's got the big smile. Where did I put my giant chart? Let me just get my chart here. You know, everybody, I don't think I'm going to make it through this entire one tonight. I may have to do a 2-parter here. I'm looking at the time. I'm trying to be careful about that, but I don't think I'm going to make it. So let's just kind of go through this a little bit. So we have Ellis here. She was disciplined. We've got Powell. She was disciplined. We've got Eastman is here. He was disciplined as well. Giuliani. So a lot of these people had some significant disciplines. Yeah, right here. This is her. So she was actually disciplined by Colorado. So that's pretty significant. And I'll pull her case because I would be interested to see what actually happened in her case. But yeah, they were, all of them were pulled in and disciplined. Time limit. Yeah, Michelle, I think what happens is, because I'm so new at this, there is kind of this unspoken 2-hour rule, and that seems to be when everybody started to get kicked out or booted out. The last time I had about a dozen people that got booted out, so I'm kind of just keeping an eye on the time for tonight. So I'm just being a little bit careful about that, just to make sure nobody gets kicked out at this point. I think that's what had happened. I had done my research, and there's like this unspoken rule when you first get into it. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it all out. But anyway, so let's make it through this last point here, and then I'll probably let everyone go for tonight. I need to save my voice because I will be, I'm going to try to see if I can get Hawk to join us tomorrow. We'll see. I'm not sure. Suze, what do you think? You think Hawk will join us tomorrow for our 2025, Project 2025 discussion? I don't know. We'll see. All right. Continues to seek to overturn the election. Yes, hello. After the Electoral College formalizes his loss. Now, this was all back in December when the electors were picked, for sure. That was a really big deal. Article 2 modified the 12th Amendment. We know that. Every state selects their presidential electors by popular vote. We have, I requested him. Ah, he was worked up yesterday. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. Poor dude. I want to send him some lollipops, but I don't know if that's really his. He mentioned you. Did he? Yeah, we were on a live the other night. I don't know. That was a classic situation where I'm in a room with like 5 other dude attorneys. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? It was great. It was great. We'll see. I'll have to send him some lollipops at some point. Ring the phone. Hawk's my favorite. Oh, I think he's fascinating. Yo, man, the Chip Seuss, go for it. I love that. I love it. I think he's just I love his perspective. I don't always agree with it, but I think it's so interesting to get his perspective on things. So I'd laugh so hard if he had a lollipop. I'm going to send him one. I'm going to have to figure out a way to get some to him. I got a bag just for him. It's going to be Hawk's bag of lollipops. I'll have to make a TikTok about it. But yeah, I think it's very interesting. Oh, the dogs aren't there. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's got to be a bummer. Yeah, it's got to be hard. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't always agree with him, but you know, that's the thing is you don't have to agree with everything everybody says to still, you know, find them a fascinating, fun person to interact with and to listen to. So lollipops and a box of Kleenex. Oh my goodness. All right, here we go. The Electoral College meets mid-December. Here we go. Plays no role in the Electoral College, right? So they're setting up the Electoral College here. Everything was decided December 14th. Let's see. The administration, officials, and family members urged the president, Trump, to concede. He refused. So that was another piece. The family was trying to get him to concede. He refused to concede. That was another piece. So he pressures Republican officials in states he lost to illegally replace Biden electors with illegitimate. We all know about that. The false electors, that was a really big deal. That was a huge, huge deal. I love the replies he does to trolls. It's so funny. I agree. I think it's funny too. I enjoy it. Yeah, you know, his ATD. He only has Buttercup. Well, it doesn't seem like Buttercup's too much of a snuggler, although she's going after his neck the other day, so I don't know. I think he's a very fascinating person. I feel, you know, I feel lucky to know him, so oh, absolutely. It is always interesting to watch him for sure. All right, so we've got pressure here. We've got the loyal electors, right? This came out of the January 6th report. His loss seemed all but certain. His allies began pursuing their state-focused plan in earnest. We all know about that. Also, we were going after Black and Latino Americans and Black election workers. So, key component was to chastise uncooperative Republican officials as disloyal, which is on brand for him, between November and January, and his inner circle engaged in at least 200 acts. This is out of that Georgia, the Georgia indictment, where we had all of those different pieces, as well as what we had in D.C. So, yeah, he does. He makes me laugh, too. I can't even help it. Yes! Yes, absolutely. He's Stitch. I mean, again, I know he may have some unpopular opinions, but I just find him just a Stitch. I'm always interested to hear what he has to say. President Trump personally pressured many Republican lawmakers, right, and election officials. Georgia was a central focus. As we know, the governor, Brian Kemp, rejected, and so he went after him. So I will go ahead and stop here for now, and we will need to kind of do a to be continued, because again, I'm really wanting to be able to chat just a bit more before my time is up. So let me just make a note of what's going on with this one. I will be making a series. I want to kind of break this up into, I think I've planned it for 5 parts, so I will be posting TikToks on this. I really don't like to go beyond 3 minutes for my TikToks. I mean, I think all of us could probably talk for, you know, the full 10 minutes, but I try to not go that much. So I will be doing a series actually summarizing this. So don't feel like we haven't made it all the way through. I will definitely be coming back on and talking about it a bit more, but just wanted to make sure that I get this information, but then I'm able to chat just a little bit here before I need to sign off. I've got about 10 minutes left here. I feel the past weeks I've been taking a U.S. Constitution intensive course. I'm not even American. Oh my gosh, Rack, I love that. I love that. Yes, well, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot. Like, we don't even know. We don't even know what's going on, and we deal with it all the time, for sure. Oh my goodness. Yes, so all right, so we've got, again, I will go through and I will put together a series on what's going on exactly. I've got it kind of already charted out at this point, but I will go through all of this from start to finish. But I think, honestly, the Colorado petition, I think, is really well written. I think they have a lot of good points. I think they put a lot of time and effort into it. I would not be surprised to see more petitions like this coming, in my opinion. In my opinion, I'm learning just so much. Oh, I'm so glad. Oh, good. Yeah, I think it's great. We all can, even too, I'm learning a lot as well. Like I've learned there's a Confederate Day. I've learned that there's elected positions for clerk of court. Like I'm learning a lot. I learn a lot every night when I come on and join you all. I think we should go past the 2-hour mark and see what happens. Maybe we can figure out more about it, how to make that stop. Oh, I'm not sure. I'm just worried. I had really tried to plan to just come up against that 2-hour mark to see if we can maintain everything rather than have it, come back later and try to sort it out. And I think, too, tonight I want to save my voice as well. So I knew if I went too much longer than 2 hours, I'd be kind of in a mess for tomorrow. Yeah, the clerk, Casey. But, yeah, I think I don't know. I'm looking at the time and I'm thinking it probably would just be better to. Yeah, I'm torn. I'm absolutely torn. I want to make it through, but I think we're also at a good stopping point where we can kind of pick up where we left off when we come back to it. So I may need to, I hope it hasn't been too bad for tonight. It's been so much to learn. I'm old enough to have to take civics class in high school. So much to learn. Oh yeah, we all have lots. Where can I find the Minnesota petition? Right, Kathleen. So I have, I did pull the Minnesota petition. I'm going to do a post on that too. You can go online and you can put in the search term 14th Amendment Petition, Minnesota Secretary of State. And I believe that's the exact phrase I pulled up in order to actually pull the PDF up. So you gotta pull that up, but make sure it's a PDF form that you're looking for. It's online. It's pretty easy. As a registered voter in Indiana, can I petition to have Trump not on our ballot? Brenda, it's looking like, according to Colorado, they had a lot of good points. So I guess a couple of questions. We don't know if the Republican voters or the undeclared party voters, which one they're going to say has standing, if both, because this is for the primary, to get off of the ballot for the primary. And we had a batch of people involved too. So I would say you're going to want more than one person. Although in Florida, we do have one person, and he is an attorney who has filed. So he filed, and then in New Hampshire, we have a person who was supposed to be on the ballot and is feeling like his position as a candidate is being harmed because Trump is on the ballot, shouldn't be on the ballot. So there are 2 other petitions with only one person, but I think having multiple people does seem to be a bit more persuasive, in my opinion. But it seems like you could definitely go for it and have some standing. Oh, for sure, save your voice, especially if you're not feeling well. Maybe another time when we're just chatting, you're feeling better, which I hope will be very soon. Oh yeah, I agree. I've got one particular person in particular I'm kind of keeping my eye on to make sure we don't get bumped. Only one in Michigan. Okay. Really? Only one in Michigan. All right. Appreciate you so much. Oh, I learned so much. You can never leave us now. We're connected. Love and lollipops. I will be here. I can promise you that. I'll probably, after tomorrow, I'm gonna have to take a break for a few days. I didn't realize how much my voice would need to rest, but no, I'll be back. I will definitely be up and running for sure. And I'm really enjoying my time here on YouTube. So we'll have to come together and kind of figure out what our docket will be. But I will absolutely be here. I'll be keeping my eyes on everything for sure. Absolutely. I'll be around. There's just so much going on. I have so much to learn from all of you. So I'm very thankful for that. How many states have ballot petitions of some sort so far? I'm not sure at this point. I'm not sure. I've lost track. See creator chasing really for a film clip unauthorized air in Florida middle school. Really? Confederate Day. Ooh, that's interesting. What time tomorrow? Okay, Brenda. So I will be on TikTok tomorrow, 6 o'clock. Now, the only reason it wouldn't happen is if I completely lose my voice, which I'm really praying will not happen. So I am planning, I've got everything I need for the 2025 project. Of course, I didn't print the whole thing out because that would be complete madness. But I've got a plan to go through it along with the Articles of Confederation. So I will start at 6 on the TikTok tomorrow. So thank you for your time. Oh, Michelle, yes, of course. Yes, thanks for everything. Yes. Oh, it's been so great chatting with everyone. Yes, I will I will need to say my goodbyes here as I go, and I can already feel my my voice starting to. Yes, absolutely. I've got some good things planned. So we'll see if Hawk joins us. Great, but if not, I will probably start with having comments off anyway for probably the first 15 minutes. I've got kind of an overview I want to give, and then we'll come back in and turn comments on. But it'll only be just a quick overview, and then I'll do comments and we'll go through all of the details. So it should be a lot of fun. I'm excited. Does honey and tea help? It does, Suze. That actually, it does help. I think it just kind of helps coat my throat a little bit. So, yes, thank you. Thank you. Candy corn hurts your throat, Lisa. Oh my gosh, Lisa, you're hilarious. That's cracking me up. Yes, good night. Good night, everybody. Thank you all for joining me. As always, I will be over on TikTok tomorrow. Good night. Good night. Thank you for coming. We made it through about half. I think we did pretty good work tonight, so I will be putting some posts up. Oh, Kathleen, you're so sweet. Oh, I don't know what I would do without all of you here to join me. Yes, good night, Suze. Good night, Snappy. Frank, of course. Lisa, cracking me up. Good night, Season. Alyssa, yes, thanks for coming by. I appreciate it. So I will go and have some tea, and we'll be back. Yes. Good night. Yes, good night, everybody. Good night. I'm so thankful to see all of you. So I'll be back over on the TikTok tomorrow. Good night. Good night, Susan. Have a good one, everyone.